All right, thank you for staying with the Monday Report. You're just in time for the town hall session where we're talking about the practical approach of surviving on a shoestring budget. We are where we are right now, facing a pandemic. Many have lost jobs. Many have lost their sources of income. What do you do from this point on? At Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya, use the hashtag Monday Report. You still have a few minutes to send in your videos on 0742 961 341. That's the number we're running right down underneath your screen. You can send in your video, comments or questions right about now. Let me introduce my guest real quick. Waithaka Gatumia is the CEO of Centonomy. Is joining us online. He will be giving us the practical approach because he's a financial coach of how to deal with the money you have. It doesn't have to be the millions of shillings. I see a lot of your concerns there. He's the CEO. Yeah. Yes, he's not in the category of 30,000 shillings and below, but he can explain how to deal with that, okay? So there's no disconnect there. You have Joy Kiru, who's an economist from the University of Nairobi as well. He's joining us as well to speak about the economic perspective. And His Excellency James Nyoro, Governor for Kiambu, is joining us right now. He's part of the leadership of one of the disease-infested zones. He doesn't like that reference, but that is how we've been categorized, the 5 counties around here. Governor, I'll start with you, actually. Thank you for making time for us here. How are you helping your people survive these hard times?
Well, I must say that it is, well, first of all, thank you for inviting us. I must say that it is very, very, very difficult. And I don't know whether people really appreciate the magnitude of this problem. And particularly if you are part of what is now called disease-infected counties. Yeah. Because you see, first of all, there is the aspect of dealing with the disease itself. And sometimes our people do not fully appreciate the magnitude, as I said.
Yeah.
Just take this. It takes an average of 30,000 shillings to take care of a patient one day, particularly if the patient is on oxygen. We are talking about a patient consuming 15 liters per minute of oxygen.
Yeah.
30,000 shillings. If that patient takes 21 days to recover, because that's what we would expect, the county will have spent about 600,000 shillings on one patient.
Yeah.
So if you are talking about 500 or 1,000 patients, which has been the case in the third wave, you are talking about a huge amount of money that otherwise was not planned for, because nobody planned for COVID.
Yeah.
That money must be coming from another source. So that source, which could be the roads, it could be water, it could be actually buying fertilizer and seed for farmers, yeah, it's not there. Over and above that, the county has lost in terms of own source revenue. So as a county in one of those zones, yeah, you are experiencing a very, very, very serious financial handicap. Now, if you are talking about our people, so that is one, on one hand, because the national government has not come in to assist in any way except the 5 million grant, 5 billion grant, the so-called 5 billion grant, yeah, that was given to counties when we were asked to do a minimum of 300 beds. So for us, as in the third wave, we've been getting an average of probably about 10 patients per day. Yeah. Now, if you look at the livelihoods, because that's what you want. So on one hand, as a county, yeah, where resources will be available to help our people, we were faced with that, handicap. On the other hand, we have waived all the levies and charges that otherwise we have been charging our people. So we no longer charge anything on Mama Boga, Boda. The transport, the levies and charges have gone down by 60% because the bars are not open. So how can you license a bar, yeah, which is not open? So all of those livelihoods means that they have actually been destroyed. Now, I want you to look at a place like Kabete, yeah, Udhiru, or places around Nairobi, Juja. There is an ordinary farmer, an ordinary resident, yeah, who in the first wave was caught up because all the restaurants were closed, all the businesses were closed in Nairobi, and in the middle of it, yeah, you are a poultry farmer with 3,000, chicken, yeah, either eggs or meat, and all of a sudden you cannot sell, which means you have destroyed your lifetime earning. Yeah. So you go back after the first wave, and most of the farmers, yeah, somehow tried out of their own savings or out of their, being supported by their family members, and they came back.
Yeah.
And they went into the same business.
But is there a way the county can support such farmers?
Now, I want to give you how difficult this situation is.
Yeah.
Now, the third wave has closed those restaurants again.
Yeah.
It has closed all the businesses again. So those people are in dire need of support. Now, the county will have spent about $500 million shillings for catering, or catering for the COVID patients. Well, where is the money to go about to support this family? Now, what we have done on our side, besides lifting all the charges and saying don't pay anything, if you're in business, even single business permit, you can postpone and pay when the economy opens. Over and above that, we have first of all distributed fertilizer and seed and all of that to farmers, because as you close down, they are still at home and the rains are coming. So one way of making sure that tomorrow is better than today is to be able to provide out of the meager resources, out of whatever small resources that are available, to be able to provide that. And we are working on that, we are distributing. Secondly, there are quite a number of institutions, and you probably have followed through Kenya National Chamber of Commerce, through organizations, many philanthropic organizations like MasterCard Foundation. They've come in with facilities where they say, we'll be able to give you credit-free, I mean interest-free, if you can pay back. So some of our farmers and some of our business people, we have actually promoted them through business development service, showing them how to do business so that they can borrow. You can do that online. Over and above that, as a county, we thought that it is important for us to develop a kitty. And we have a kitty that we call COVID-19 Fund. This is an arrangement between us and KCB, where we are using our own money, about 138 million, to leverage 1.3 billion at KCB, so that these businesses can go to KCB and borrow at a subsidized interest rate. Instead of paying 13%, we pay 7%, we pay 6%, they pay 7%. And then risk-free, so that they don't produce any security, so that any time that the economy starts to open, they can at least borrow. But you can only borrow. You cannot get it for free.
It has to be borrowed.
That's the kind of situation we are talking about.
Let me bring in Waithaka on this. Waithaka, let's get practical here. So if a family has two people, either one has lost the job or both of them have lost their job, how do they start rebudgeting? Where do I start from? Do we first start by moving out of the house where we were? This cuts across. It doesn't matter how much you are earning.
So thank you so much, Trevor, for that great question. The issue is this. As a household, it's important to have a budget in the first place. So a very quick way of doing it is by calculating what your overall costs for the house are. One of the mistakes that many households do is that they have separate budgets for each of the income earners. So you have a wife with a budget, a husband with a budget. We don't know what the household budget is. So that's a great place to start. If you can identify what all the costs are, then you can begin to make a decision as to where you're going to make those changes. Trevor, it's not a very easy decision to move house, but if you understand what the overall cost of your household is, and you can see that by moving house it will make a huge difference, then you can start making such decisions. Because moving house has a huge implication on transport, on school, on other things like that, and even for your own psychological support, because that's where your community is, that's where you know how to live. So the first thing we must do is know where all our costs are going. When you do that, you will have a realistic budget that you can now begin to look at in times of distress. So at Centonomy, what we teach is to have what we call the ABC budget. And we've got lots of free material on that on our website, centonomy.com, where you're able to look at what is your A expense, which is your essential expenses, which is food, housing, school fees, things like those. And not all food is essential. As you can remember, not all housing is essential, but you need somewhere to live, you need something to eat, and obviously we need education. So you identify what are my essential expenses, that's A. B is important but not essential. And I think if there's one thing that COVID has taught us is that there are so many things that are important, but they're not essential. Like many of us didn't know that we can go a few months without a haircut or a few months without driving your car. So you realize those things are important, but they're not essential. And then that's the B expense. And the last expense is your C expenses, which are everything else. Whatever you spend over and above on the ringtones on your phone, on eating out, anything else that you do other than what is essential or what is important, you put in the C. So when there's times of pressure, the ABC budget will show you, if I want to survive longer, I need to cut down on my C expenses and maybe some of my B expenses. But I know what my A is. That is for survival for the longest period of time. And lastly, Trevor, we also cannot just sit and wait. I believe that I've seen so many creative Kenyans coming up with ideas during these very difficult times in how to supplement their income. You're going over and above to make sure that you're increasing the income and not just managing what you have.
Yeah, and by increasing the income, that's the other question that we bring up, Waithaka, because is this time to make capital investments? Should I start a business for someone?
Wow, you're asking a very tough question and asking for a yes or no. I can't give you a yes or no. It depends. Is there an opportunity? Do you have the capital? Is there a market for what you're looking for? If those things are there, then yes, it can be there are some businesses that have started during this season that have grown exponentially because of the demand that is in the market. But there are other businesses that have been hard hit. So as an entrepreneur, you're looking at, is there the opportunity? Is there a market? Do I have the capital? And the capital is not just to start, but in the capital, working capital that will take you until the break-even point of your business and turn into a profitable business. If you have that, then go ahead. But if you're unsure, plunging a lot of cash right now into an investment that you're not sure about the outcome may not be a great idea. So It really depends on the situation that you're in.
All right, let me bring in Joy Kiru on this. Joy, as an economist, so we began with the cessation of movement, and then we went into the lockdown of the DIZ, we call them, the 5 counties. Was that a better approach, economically speaking?
Trevor, I think I'll be a bit controversial here, but what's important is that people follow my argument. By March 26, when this lockdown was put in place, the COVID was already in the communities. It was already everywhere. No part of Kenya was spared. And if that was the case then, and again, at the same point, small-scale entrepreneurs were still struggling to find their footing after the phased reopening. They'd made a lot of investments to reopen their businesses. Some were struggling with loans and all that, but they saw an opportunity to at least comply with the stringent and expensive measures so that they can be able to go back to businesses. And then even before they recover anything, the lockdown comes again. Now let us come back to the issue of balancing between lives and livelihoods. Of course, we know that if you are not very good on lives, for example, if you don't take care of spreading coronavirus, then the end result is bad, death and destruction. On the other hand, in Kenya, if you do not take care of livelihoods, the end result is equally bad. And we're talking about an economy whereby before COVID, 80% of all employments were being provided through the informal entrepreneurships. Now, the economic survey of 2020 show that 90% of all employment, up from 80%, is through informal entrepreneurship. Now, if you look at the balance, was the lockdown the best alternative? I agree with banning social gatherings and public gatherings. I agree with all the ABCs of COVID prevention, that is hand washing, social distancing, masking, and all that. But when it comes to imposing more economic restriction in a scenario that I've just mentioned, I think it was unwarranted, it was unnecessary. It is just causing more economic woes to Kenyans, and the results are likely to be the same. So I think the extra restrictions are just more frustrations on livelihood, and it was not necessary in the first place. If you look at the gains, probably it's not the best.
Okay,
I think so.
All right, Governor.
Can I comment on that? And I respect Joy's line of argument. But I have to say that we were invited as the DIZs, the so-called. We were invited to our State House when that statement of the lockdown was being made. Mm-hmm. And I think facts and figures did speak to this kind of action.
Yeah. Because
I think the projections were showing, and already we have so many people who cannot get an ICU bed. We have over 256 people in ICU. You can only get an ICU bed if somebody is discharged or if somebody is dead. And projections were showing that if that trend was continuing, we would actually be requiring beds, about 2,500 inpatients per day. And out of that, the decision was made. And if you look at, I think the problem that Kenyans have been having is the fact that if we all adopted the health protocols under the lockdown, everybody of us, including people who are not going home at 8, because if somebody is not going home at 8, what they are doing is they are pretending that the economy is still normal. But that is for themselves. It's not for the rest of the society. If everybody now adhered to the protocol, we would probably have closed the economy for 3 weeks. But what we have, you have bars open, you have people doing all these kind of things. So I want to submit and say that from the kind of the projections that the epidemiology results that were presented, we would have been in Tanzania or some other situation if we did not take these measures. Now, these measures can be painful now, and I've talked about how my people are suffering. But if only we can make it for a short period of time, like now we are starting to see, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the Ministry of Health, we have started to see that admissions are coming down. We have come down from 90, as I say, 10 per day, to about 5 per day. So admissions are coming down. Now, if infection rates come down within the next 1 or 2 weeks, it is pain worth taking rather than burying people in heaps. So I think we all need to look, and we are economists, we are statisticians, we need to be informed by data, evidence-based decision-making.
Okay. Joy, according to you, what do you think would have been the best approach then? Because we are trying to balance between livelihoods and life.
Look, I agree with His Excellency, the Governor of Kiambu. Now, the point is, what is the government doing to cushion all these people who are suffering? It's okay. I agree with you. The balance is very, very important. It's very, very important to reach. For me, I think strict enforcement of the COVID rules would have been much better and would spared a lot of Kenyans a lot of suffering. When you talk about reducing of budgets, it sounds adjusting of budgets and all that, which is also another economic issue that we can look at later. What is it that you have to reduce if you have no income in the first place? What is it that you have to budget on if you've lost your job and you've closed everything? And the same government that's supposed to be taking care of ensuring that people live a certain standard of living, I've got no resources to cushion those who are suffering. You get it? So the point is the balance is very, very important. And just like you're saying that one death is one too many, one family sleeping hungry, one family destitute is also one too many. So the point is, it's okay to have this restriction to protect health. But on the other hand, what is it that you're doing as a government to ensure that people do not unnecessarily suffer? People do not live livelihoods which are below the dignity of a good living standard. I think that's where really my point is. As we do these measures, we must ensure that people can be ensured of a standard of living, and the governor is hearing.
Governor, why is it so difficult? You've mentioned the COVID-19 fund. You've mentioned taking care of the people who are in hospital, and it's also quite expensive. Why is it so difficult for counties to have a kitty where they can even distribute funds? We've seen Red Cross do it to other people, the most vulnerable in your county. Why is that difficult? Will it then raise audit queries? Why is it so?
No, not really. You know, of course, right now most counties are doing supplementary budget, second supplementary budget, 2 months before the end of the year. So if you recognize that you have funds, you can always put them in the supplementary budget, and depending on the PFM Act, because PFM Act dictates if you create a fund, are you going to distribute money to poor people, and what criteria are you going to use? Now remember, these are public funds. Now, that presupposes also that that money is there. And we have gone back and we've realized, remember also that as we talk now, many counties have not been paid for 3 months by the national government. So you are assuming that the money is there. Even if the money is there, it will have to go through a rigor of processes in order to create the kind of fund. That is why, even for us as Kiambu County, to create the COVID-19 fund with KCB, we had to spend about 5 months, because you come up with this proposal. You have to identify which bank competitively. So you have to float in interest, the request for interests from different banks. You have to take it to the assembly so that they form regulations. So these things are not as easily as done. But I have to say that going forward, and because we are now preparing for 2021-2022 budget, I think counties should be innovative in creating, if like my fund, the fund I'm talking about, where I'm leveraging 1.3 billion shillings from commercial banks, because I'm subsidizing at 6%. So my people are paying 7%. If, for instance, we reduce that to 2%, okay, through some other means, because you could get money to reduce that to 2% without any security, then you are getting to a point where this is like interest-free money, but you have to have a criteria through which this goes. I think the national government needs to think very seriously in next year's budget in creating a COVID-19 recovery fund. Now, this kind of fund would come in as the youth fund, the women fund, or some fund that really will have to go to the bottom of the pyramid for them to start off. Otherwise, like we are saying, people may not have died of COVID, but they will die of hunger in July or August. So there are complications, there are bureaucracies, there are many things, because you are dealing with public funds. You see now the special audit and what is happening. There are those complications. And there is no exception to a disaster, by the way. So all of these things must come to bear. Okay.
Waithaka, let me bring you back into this. You know, the ABC budget that you talked about, that presupposes that at least one person has a job. So what if it's a household that everyone has lost their jobs? Where do you start? Do you then start by disposing of some of the assets that you have? What is the most practical thing to do?
So I think in a season like this, Trevor, thank you for that question. We must be our brother's keeper. I love the discussion that's going on between His Excellency and between our wonderful economist, Joy. I want us to begin to think about ourselves as a community, Trevor, so that if there are those who are vulnerable in the community, that we support them. I know that many organizations, NGOs, churches have put together food banks that are supporting families who are in need. Those who have, this is a time for us not to wait for the government, not to wait for anyone else. If there is a community that you can be able to serve, please serve them. Go out of your way. If you have, give. And one of the things that I've seen, Trevor, in this nation is that often it is those who have the least who are the most willing to give. My call is to all those who are in the middle and upper class who have something extra. This is the time to go to that food bank, go to the Red Cross, go to your church, and support the community. If you are in that situation where income has been lost, it is not only during pandemics that this happens, Trevor. There are other reasons that could happen. And so it is also important that we don't just give up and wait, but to begin to do more on or as far as we are concerned. You have skills, talents, abilities that go beyond just your job. What can you do that can begin to supplement that income? Before you think about just disposal of assets, although that is one way of generating cash, definitely, is there some way that you can be able to raise funds? And if we've been talking about this at St. Olme for the last 12 years. Shocks will come to your house, to your household, to the economy. This is the time. If you have never done it before, start saving and putting aside an emergency fund. Anytime you have earned some money, you can't spend it all. As much as possible, put something aside. And I know, Trevor, you're going to come back to me and say that there are those who are earning so little that they can't be able to put aside. But you'll find those who you're saying who are earning so little are the same ones who have purchased, for instance, like a ringtone on their phone that they are paying 1 shilling, 2 shillings, 50 cents, even up to 5 shillings a day. If they had, instead of buying that ringtone, put it aside into some place that can purchase some food. So all of us have some space in our budgets that we can be able to use for an emergency like what we're going through right now.
Okay, let me take a quick break here on the Monday Report. I see a lot of your questions coming through. We'll pose some of them plus your video questions as well on 0742961341. We'll bring that up in just a bit.